Hi there, welcome back to the channel. In this episode of The Sit Down, we have another special guest called Bramus Van Damme. Welcome, Bram.
Hey, Bert.
All right. We have known each other for quite a long time now. I think 13 years.
I was going to say about 15, so yeah 13.
13, 15. My first question for you is, how did you ever get into programming?
I think it started as a kid when I was always playing with my Legos. I was like building the instructions once, and then I just tore it down and built my own stuff. And that kind of propagated into what I was always doing. Like later on, playing video games, GTA, like the first GTA, Quake.
The top-down.
The top-down one. Some clever folks made level editors for that, and then I started like, oh, there's this big ini file, and you can write your own missions. Oh, I can create my own cars, and so I also started like hacking on stuff, and I think it was in 1997 that I discovered View Source on the web.
All right.
So that was like a whole world opening, and then whoa, I can make my own websites.
Great. And during your career, you transitioned from I think PHP, React, CSS, and all the main JavaScript thing. But what is the thing that you're most proud of? A product or something that you created?
I think there's several things that I'm proud of. So I started off as a front-end developer first, before that was even a term, with HTML, and only way later I learned about CSS and JavaScript and whatnot. And then I transitioned to learn the back-end stuff as well. But one time period in my career that I'm quite proud of is when I was a lecturer teaching you amongst other students, and that was really nice to do, and especially like after seeing a student enter in the first year, go through the entire track, and then after the third year they come and thank you and say like, hey, you know what, before all this I really wasn't interested into web development or whatever, but thanks to you now I am, and I want to become a web developer. So that was like that's something that I'm really proud of. So it's not a product per se that I'm proud of, but more like of having had a positive influence on people. Yeah,
having impact on those people to start off their career in web development.
Definitely, and I still see them from time to time at meetups, and we have talks, and well, I still see you from time to time as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, great. Well, you mentioned meetups already, so you're quite known as a public speaker. I started speaking at events because of you. You
cool.
kind of forced me to it.
Yeah.
How did that ever become a thing for you?
I think it kind of evolved naturally from what I was doing. Like I've been running my blog bram.us for more than 20 years now, and it was always in me. Like whenever I discovered something or found like in my opinion, a good way to do something, I wrote about it, and I wanted to like tell people like, hey, this is how you can do it. Maybe it will work for you as well. And then starting out as a lecturer later on, I got like used to making presentations and talking to people. And at around the same time, I started attending conferences, meetups. I was like, yeah, I can do this as well, right? So I think my first ever talk was like something not really technical related. It was about maps and how coordinate systems and whatnot work, but like that kind of got me started, and whenever I found a topic that was interesting me, I thought like, hey, yeah, cool. I want to make a slide deck about it and tell about it.
All right. I also asked this to Freek, the previous guest, who you also know, of course. Yeah. You've spoken around the globe already. I think Australia and US. Did you do the US already?
I've been there work-related, but not to speak.
Okay,
so not yet.
If you have to pick one location that you spoke at, what is the top location that you attended?
To me, the top location was in Amsterdam at CSS Day, because it's been an event that I've been attending ever since I started. So that's, I think, 11 years ago already, or 10 years ago, I don't know, 9?
Yeah, I also attended it. It's it's a long time ago.
Yeah, they exist for about a decade right now, and I always wanted to speak at that conference. And then last year I spoke at the conference. So we made the arrangement back in 2020, but then the whole pandemic thing started. So it was like, yeah, you can come speak, but there's COVID, maybe next year, and then it got postponed again. And finally last year, and in between that time, in between agreeing to speak there, I joined Google, so yeah, it was a win for them as well. Like, oh yeah, we have another Googler on board. Nice.
All right. So also this is something that you do for a living now?
Yeah.
Speaking for the camera, for Google as a developer relation architect or an engineer or?
Developer relations engineer is the term, or just like a devrel.
Okay, yeah, cool. But whenever you're not doing that, then you turn down your laptop, you put off your phone. What does Bramus do in his spare time?
Well, I spend a lot of time with my family, of course, with my wife and 3 kids. But if I really want to escape, then I go scuba diving. So I'm a poly dive master, and yeah, whenever I'm underwater, my brain just shuts down. I'm just solely occupied with diving, watching nature, watching the beauty of the fish, the underwater life, and nothing is busy in my mind. So that I can really disconnect underwater.
Yeah, and you also film it and you post it on social media where I see it, and it's quite amazing. I must say it's
very nice, and you don't have to go very far. Like I've done dives in Australia, but you can go to Egypt, which is much closer by for us and also much cheaper. And the underwater life there is also amazing. Even in Holland, the Oosterschelde.
Yeah, only
wonderful.
I think 1 hour drive from here.
Yeah, 1 hour drive and
all right.
Very nice.
Well, I did it twice. I did it twice. Once with you also.
Yeah.
In a swimming pool. All right. Okay, so let's get back to CSS and those kind of things. Did you ever play around with Tailwind CSS? That's kind of hot right now. I'm also using it at the moment. What is your take on it?
It's a dangerous topic because I call it the framework that must not be named, because when you speak about it and like in a somewhat negative way, well, not meant to like be negative about it, but just saying like, I'm not 100% sure, then opinions start popping up from everywhere. So first I want to make this clear, like this is my opinion, not Google's opinion or whatever. This is just my sole opinion. First of all, if it works for you as an author, then great, fantastic. Keep on using it. Like thanks to Bootstrap, thanks to Tailwind, people who are not familiar or entirely familiar with CSS can make nice looking websites.
People like me.
So
I'm not a CSS kind of guy.
So sure, why not do that? However, like I do have some remarks about, I'm not convinced about all the classes in there. Like if I say, like here's a div and it has a class of news item cover, then you already have a clue what it's about.
Yeah.
If I tell you here's a div with PL5SX2, it's like, oh, what? So
it's naming the things that you want.
But of course, if you then use it in a React context where you have a component that is named news item cover, and out comes the stuff with all the classes, okay, then you also know what it's about. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of mixing all the classes. I do see the need and the use case for utility classes, of using them, but I would like sprinkle them on top afterwards. Especially like one example that I really like is, say you want to change the padding on your entire website for whatever reason. Somebody says like, oh no, the default padding should be half of what you currently have. In CSS, the way I would do it is changing one CSS custom property, and then that would like trickle down the website. Whereas with Tailwind, I'm not sure how it's done nowadays, but back in the day, you had to search and replace a bunch of classes.
Yeah, it's not just one thing you need to change for that. Yeah.
So it's not like you have a token somewhere. So yeah, I'm not convinced that your design tokens should be used directly in classes. Like there's other ways. But then again, Tailwind already does it to a certain extent. Like for example, your colors. You can define your base color in a JavaScript file, in a config file, and then it compiles all the other ones from there. So.
All right, that's a very clear answer. So
I think the answer boils down to it depends.
It depends. It always depends. But it was a tricky question. I'm aware of that. Well, we have mentioned it in private conversations as well already. The hash selector, scrolling to animations. Is there anything besides those two that are coming to CSS that will really change or break the game how we do it nowadays? And
definitely, it's a very exciting time to be a front-end developer nowadays because there's a bunch of stuff coming, and especially there's a bunch of stuff coming cross-browser. So like thanks to the interop effort, where all browser vendors sit together and be like, hey, you know what, these areas here, there's like an interop problem, there's some bugs, or we all want to land them this year.
Yeah.
Let's focus on that. So you as a developer can then know, okay, this stuff is coming. And one of the features that's coming this year is the ability to target way more colors than ever before, so the new color spaces. If you take a look at all the color that our eyes can perceive, we're like filling inside of this little triangle called sRGB.
Yes.
And with Display P3 and Rec 2020, we have like a much wider triangle where we can use colors from. And along with that, there's a bunch of functions that you can use, like color mix, where you say, hey, take one color, mix it with another one. Like you can make them lighter or darker. Or even use the relative color syntax, where you like load in a hex color, but load it up in HSL and then change the saturation, and then out comes a new color. So I think that's really, really nice. Another one that I'm a big fan of is view transitions. This is unfortunately Chrome only right now, but other vendors have expressed interest that they like it. And what they allow you to do within a single page application right now, it's limited to SPAs, but MPA support is coming, is that in between your two states, like an overview and a detail, you can have a smooth transition in between, saying like, hey, you know what, the photo that you clicked in the overview, that's this photo in the big view, and it will like do a transition between it. But you can target things individually, say, oh, the navigation needs to slide away, the image needs to pop, the content needs to slide in.
It reminds me a bit of the Flash days then, where you can actually make your own transitions whenever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. You sprinkle some tags throughout your DOM. In CSS you do that. So you target certain elements and say like, hey, this is your name, this is your name, this is your name in both of the views. And then you hook up a CSS animation and it works automatically.
Right. Exciting times indeed.
I've got some more features, by the way, if you want to have some architectural features that will change how we write our CSS. The two big ones coming this year is CSS nesting.
Okay.
Which is like the SAS nesting. Not exactly, like there's some nuances, but you will have the ability to nest selectors in CSS where it like kind of matches SAS nesting, but not entirely. Some minor differences. And the second feature that's coming in Chrome, it's not coming cross-browser, it's not part of interop, is scoped styling, where you can say, you know what, in my DOM, in between this node and that node, I just want to select the images in between those nodes.
Okay,
so that way you can...
of the has selector, but between... where you can select elements between nodes?
Not between has, it's about setting boundaries, whereas now we like often use to scope our styling, we add a special automatically generated class onto an element, so that we only target certain other elements in there, because we prepend that unique ID before all of our selectors. Well, now you can do that with scoping, saying like, hey, you know what, everything between the news article wrapper up to the content, the image in there, so only the one in the header, style it that way, which is nice. So you can move away from certain approaches we have now like BAM, where you would add classes to uniquely identify stuff, or do the prepending thing. We will be able to move away from that, and I think that's really beneficial to our development process.
All right, and so the nesting thing, well, it will become a dangerous time for SAS and things like that.
How do you mean dangerous?
Well, that's only the reason why I use SAS, actually, to have that nesting ability.
Yeah, so there's a lot of power coming to CSS, like all the color mixing and the nesting, and those are also features that I typically turn to a preprocessor for.
Yeah, and those will come natively into CSS then?
Yeah, but there's some other stuff that you can't do in CSS, and currently, like, I'm also a member of the CSS working group where we discuss all these things. Like, for example, currently there's no real way, or we don't see a way to create for loops where you can like automatically generate selectors somehow. Okay. Which is something that you can do in SAS, but you can't do it in CSS right now. Maybe you will in the future, but I'm not sure.
We don't know what the future brings, so... All right, very interesting times indeed. Definitely. Is there anything you want to add to this conversation for the viewers?
Oh, I haven't given that question any thought yet. Sometimes people ask me like, hey, what's the best way to do this? Or should I do this or whatever? And well, we've already said it. It depends. Like back in the day, students would ask me, "Oh, what's the best language to do that?" And I said, like, "Hey, whatever you're comfortable with. Of course, do take a look at what each language is good at. So there's something called like the rule of least power, which says like in your tech stack, if you look at it, which is for us HTML, CSS, JavaScript, look at what each language can do, what it can do best. But if you can do it with a technology lower in the stack, use that. For example, dialogues and whatnot, we have HTML elements for that. Progress meters, we have HTML elements for that. Styling, I wouldn't do styling in my JavaScript. I would use CSS for that. Interactivity, something perfect for JavaScript, not in HTML per se. So look at it, the rule of least power. That's one thing. And another thing is often people ask, like, should I do this? Should I do that? My answer is just do it. Like start if you want to start.
Just go with it.
If you want to start writing a blog and you're not sure, write it. Even if it's only for yourself, even if you have one visitor or one reader or whatever, do it, because in the long run, it will pay off. I've been blogging for 20 years, and eventually it led me to landing my job at Google.
Indeed.
So, go with it. You will grow, you will learn things, you will get input from other people. So,
right.
I would highly recommend everyone to do it.
A bit of the same thing here with this channel, where I create these coding tutorials.
Yeah.
It was a very sketchy thing in the beginning, but it's getting along quite well.
And the cool thing is, if you now look back at your first video, and you're like, that first, that's good, because that's a sign that you have grown. You have learned stuff, you have grown, you've become more professional at it, you've become better at it. So,
but I still have a long way to go, though. So all right, the next question, which I'm trying to ask everyone that comes here, is there anyone that you think of top of mind that I should invite next to the show?
Looking closely, locally Belgium-based.
No, just don't send me to Australia, please. But
I will join you to go diving. People I would like to see on this show here are people like Dries Vins or Thijs Verijn.
Both are already booked.
All right, perfect. Because they too are Belgian people. We're a very small country. We're always like humble. I'm not sure if I can do that, yes or no. And they too are people who work at international companies. And I'm curious to hear their story, how they got there, what advice they have.
Yeah.
But good to hear
I'm already in contact with those two guys. So
perfect.
They're also quite close, so they're quite easy to get to for me. So great. All right. Are there any places that people can follow you? Oh,
there are many places you can follow me. I think the main thing is Twitter nowadays. Well, for the time being, last, of course. So my handle is Bramus, and it's mostly my username everywhere, if not everywhere. Bramus on Twitter, my blog bram.us, and then I'm also on Mastodon. It's bramus at frontend.social and front-end.social.
Okay.
So you can also find me there, and I think those are the main places to.
All right, great. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come by.
All right, great. So if you want to follow Bramus, I will put his links to his socials in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
You forgot something.
What did I forget?
Like and subscribe.
Oh, yes, like and subscribe.
And hit the bell.
Thank you, Bramus. Ciao.
Bye.